Oh,
Oh, okay, here we are. It
back
has only
again.
been one day and we're back at the podcast. It's great. It's great to be back so soon and chatting here with my friend James. I love it.
Oh man, can you tell what our New Year's resolutions was?
Oh man. But seriously though, it's nice to be back doing this. I actually thought about this a lot because it's just like an excuse to chat with your friend about interesting stuff, and so it's nice to have it. So good to be back doing it. And by the way, I just want to say up front, no promises about when we'll do it, but hopefully more regularly.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, man. I've been scrolling through the Super Memo Wiki Discord recently
Mm.
and reliving the old times, going through a bunch of nostalgic messages.
Oh
Uh,
man.
damn. I mean,
It
that was a golden era, honestly.
it was, and you know what? I could feel at the time like there's no way it can last because the extra variable there was COVID, dude. Everybody was at home on the
True.
computer, and it was like such an extra force, you know? And now
Yeah.
after that passed, I don't know, maybe I'm exaggerating the influence of that, but to me it felt like that was an important factor in it because everybody
Mm.
was working from home or everybody was just at home from university or whatever, and it was just so much more online at that time, and
Mm.
it passed so quickly. And then even like friends we made, like you and I, we're good friends, and we still don't talk anywhere near as regularly as we did
Mm.
during that time. And I feel like that happens a lot, you know, like anybody who used to play video games, probably you had friends on there. Like I had tons of friends that I used to talk to every day when I would play games every day. And then as soon as I stopped playing games, those friendships just fell away. And it's like, man, that
Mm.
kind of sucks. You thought it was like more well founded than that it would survive a change in medium or something, but it
Mm.
didn't.
I think it's because, yeah, I guess we're all quite young as well. So it's like you don't know how good you have it until it's gone. And then a couple years pass and you look back and you're like, damn, I haven't spoken to people who, you know, whose interests overlap with mine to that degree.
Right,
You know,
right.
have you come across anyone, in real life or even online who you're able to talk about the intricacies of flashcard formulation with?
Not once, my friend, not one time.
Exactly.
And I've
Exactly.
tried. I go up to
Yeah.
people on the street, I say, do you know about spaced repetition? And not one says yes. But but
Exactly.
that is something true actually, because the that community was so specific. Like I'm sure there
Mm.
are a lot of communities like this, but it's so specific. Not only was it about spaced repetition, but it was about Super Memo, like that extremely obscure piece of software, only
Yeah.
on Windows, been built since 1915, and
Mm.
it's like so specific, and everybody there was so interested in it. I think it was a really kind of special thing, and obviously it's still there. Still gets plenty of activity, not as much as it once did, but it's still there. It's nice to see. One thing that is not nice to see, and we probably talked about this, so let's mention it only quickly. It's not nice to see how many people who used to love Super Memo no longer even use it at all. That's
Mm.
kind of like sad to me. Like the most intensive users that we used to know on there don't even use it at all now.
That's true. That's true. I think the most important part is the ideas, though. It's always the concepts. The concepts live on for sure, and they're
Right.
being spread. I guess. I don't know. You posted about Dwarkesh, his podcast,
Oh yes,
on
yes.
Twitter,
Yeah.
and uh, I went back to one of my favorite of his podcasts, which is with Dominic Cummings, who's like a senior advisor for the Prime Minister here in the
Yeah, I
UK,
remember we've
Boris
spoken about
Johnson.
him before, but I haven't watched that yet.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I definitely recommend it. But he was talking about COVID and how it was like a big missed opportunity for him, in his view, to change sort of the course of politics and try and correct some of the problems that he saw in the government and things like that.
Mm.
I wonder if the same concept can be applied to like learning and the opportunity that existed during COVID, because everyone was at home everyone kind of realized that online learning was a possibility. Um, and people were like looking for alternatives to universities because all of the lectures were online, and people were like, why am I paying all of this money just to have like this low quality online content that I could get for
Mm.
free anyway? Do you think it was like a missed opportunity for people, I guess maybe in the free learning community, or maybe was, since he's now trying to do the school revolution thing, to try and take advantage of that, since we might not
Mm.
get another opportunity?
Yeah, I think it was probably a missed opportunity in that way, but it's really hard to say. I mean, a lot of kids a lot of kids had a bad time doing that, and they would have preferred to be at school. At least that's my understanding.
Mm.
And I also think it was just a missed opportunity for people in general in their life. Like I remember a lot of people saying, "Oh, I'm gonna get in shape or whatever," and most people did not. Like most people don't follow their New Year's resolutions or whatever, and so it was a missed opportunity just because so much about the world shifted. And I'm interested in the companies and the entities that did take advantage of that. Like, look
Mm.
at Zoom. Like Zoom enjoyed unbelievable success, I'm sure, purely as a result of COVID. And there's this pair programming app, Tuple, run by a great guy called Ben Ornstein, a few of his friends. And they exploded during COVID. And it's like, what other things were there like that could have happened but didn't? You know, probably there's a
Yeah,
bunch.
I think a lot of companies, like I think Zoom, because Zoom was around before COVID, right? So they kind of got
Yeah,
lucky.
right.
They and the To be fair to people, like it takes probably, depending on what you want to do, it takes quite a long time to make a big change in your life. Like I guess for
Mm,
fitness, you can change overnight, and then the results accumulate kind of, within 2 years, you'll have good results, right? But if you want to
right.
do something like um, something more uncertain, like start a company or um, yeah, something along those lines, 2 years might not be enough, to take advantage of that. And I think that starting a school revolution definitely falls into that category. It's like more along the lines of decades that you need in terms of,
Mm.
timing and things in order to make that happen. So maybe it would have been too optimistic to say this is the best opportunity ever, and now we've missed it. We're screwed.
Yeah, just like anything, I think the case with revolutions is that the cultural forces were typically moving in that direction, and somebody comes along and catalyzes it. A group of people catalyze
Mm.
it, and to me, it does not feel. It's sort of beginning to feel this way, but it does not feel like the school revolution has any power to it at all. I don't feel like people are really buying in or going that way. Some people are saying, let's homeschool our kids because we don't like what's being taught in the schools. So I guess that's new. And I do think that COVID pushed more people to homeschooling. Like, wow, this is an opportunity. This is a possibility for our kids, and it actually works well. They're learning more, and they're learning more efficiently, so they can do something else with the rest of their time. So I do think it was useful in that way. But don't you feel like the school revolution is too early or something? Or is it the cultural forces don't match up with it?
Yeah, definitely. There's a missing piece of the puzzle. Um, I don't know what it is. Like, I feel like with a lot of this learning stuff, it really overlaps very strongly with self-improvement.
Mm.
And I see that industry, and it seems like it's booming. Maybe it's just like my bias because of my YouTube recommendations. That's like YouTube is pretty much the only social media or news that I get. And I guess I like the kind of self-improvement videos kind of
Mm.
things. Um, but I just see that industry growing at a huge rate, and it seems like a lot of the topics they talk about they kind of overlap with um, like I could just they always talk about how you need to be in the gym or whatever, or you need to be doing things like meditation or journaling, those kind of habits and things like that. It feels like learning could be another one of the kind of things that's promoted by these people, but I never see it being promoted. But if you see like uh if you look at the expansion in like the number of people who go to the gym nowadays, young people,
Mm,
it's like a huge hobby compared to how it was back in my parents' day. Like my mum and dad were telling me how just going to the gym it was a very niche thing. It
right,
wasn't
right.
that culturally accepted or just expected of people to be going to the gym or anything like that. And now it's like if you're in school, everyone's going to be talking about the gym. Um, it's going to be it's going to be pushed on everyone's social media feeds. You're always looking at people on Instagram who are talking about it and stuff like that. Why couldn't it be the same with learning? And I think if that was to happen, I think that would provide a necessary kind of stepping stone towards kind of like a school revolution or a learning revolution.
Mm. Yeah, that's an interesting point. I wonder if because a lot of people do talk about going to the gym, but it seems like most people don't continue going to the gym. Is that your
Yeah,
impression?
I'd say so. I guess. Yeah.
So in a certain way, I guess that's a failure as like a movement, you know? Like people are more out of shape than they've ever been, I think. I think that's probably right. I haven't verified all that. One thing I do know is that grip strength has gone down since the 80s. So that's something at least. But the reason why I'm mentioning that, it's not just some esoteric point. It's because maybe it doesn't work. Like that way of doing it doesn't work. Generating like all this social pressure from Instagram, whatever else. Go to the gym, you got to be in shape. Like maybe it doesn't work broadly speaking. In the same way that like it's possible to quit smoking, but most people don't quit. Like it's very hard to quit smoking. So
Yeah.
is it one of those things?
I don't know, to be honest. Yeah, I think it's just my perception is so biased. I think by what like the content I consume. Um, it like creates the impression that everyone around me is doing a certain thing. But you're right, like all of the like health stats and everything point towards people getting more obese, more unhealthy, consuming more sugar and stuff like that, as opposed to
Right.
becoming more healthy.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. But that point you made about whatever's in your bubble, you think that's going on everywhere. It's like that's really true. You think, oh, everybody knows about whatever Jordan Peterson or Joe Rogan or like
mm,
these like cultural figures that are popular in this. Like those are broadly popular people, but a lot of people don't watch the Joe Rogan Experience. They don't know what these people have said, or people like Andrew Tate. Like they're popular online, but if you talk to like adults, people in their 50s and 60s, most of them don't seem to know, you know?
exactly, exactly. It's funny. I saw like something in the newspaper about schools having to do special assemblies about Andrew Tate
Oh,
to tell
seriously?
kids not to watch him.
Oh my goodness.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I don't know my feelings about that. I agree with some of the stuff he says, but some of it is obviously not only inflammatory but completely immoral. So, yeah, I probably on balance, maybe it's right. I don't know. But anyway,
Yeah.
um, I do think self-improvement is always booming. Don't you think? Like
Mm,
that's everybody always wants to improve, but probably now there are so many avenues by which you can access self-improvement content that is so specific to you, like whatever your thing you're trying to do. There's always some online community for it, and so
mm,
probably that's partially responsible for the broadly increasing popularity of it. Maybe it's not true, but like look at a book like Atomic Habits. That book has
mm,
sold, as far as I could tell, over 15 million copies. 15 million copies for a
mm.
one book is insane. That's
Yeah.
insane. And is it a perfect book? No, but I actually think it's a very good book, and clearly people get a lot of value from it. And it actually makes me feel bad because I know that James is writing another book. James Clear. I don't know him, but I'm
Mm.
aware that he's writing another book, and I feel bad for him because you can't follow that up. How are you gonna follow that up? Imagine that, dude. Imagine your debut book sells 15 million copies, and now you're trying to write a follow-up to whatever it's going to be about. Who knows? I think it's going to be about strategy or something, how to make decisions. I don't know.
Mm.
And you can't succeed relative to the first book because it's just impossible to sell 15 million copies again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Quit while you're ahead, bro.
Yeah, just say, I wrote one book, I'm done. Like, dude, do you know that YouTuber Tom Scott?
Oh, yeah.
He retired. He said, I've been doing
Yeah.
this for 10 years, I'm done. Peace out. And I go, big up, big respect, Tom Scott, dude. Because all these other retards, they say, well, let me not use that word. All these other people say,
Let's hope.
I'll be,
Let's hope.
I'll be nice. I'll be nice. All these other people who go on YouTube for so long, they're just continuing to put out bad content, and they hate it. They hate doing YouTube now. And it's like, dude, just move on. Just find something else with your life. You made all your money. Just stop doing it. Clearly, you don't like it anymore. And this guy, Tom Scott, he's like, bang, I'm done with it. 10 years. I respect that.
Yeah. I saw like he had some insane streak of doing videos. Something like,
Yeah, that's what he said. 10 years. He said he had not missed a week for 10 years.
wow. Yeah, that's crazy. Reminds me of the people with the Anki flashcard heat maps.
But I've really come around on that. I used to think, what a bunch of goofballs, this and that. But it's like, dude, who cares? If that gets you to be more consistent, it's the same thing. Like I've been seeing people post their GitHub heat map. I guess it's the same like thing. And it's like, dude, if that gets you to write more code, that's great. Although I do think it's one of those weird things where, like, if that's your goal is to write more commits, you could just commit more frequently, even if it doesn't make sense to do a commit. Like, I think there's potential danger. I saw some people with like 20,000 commits or something. I'm thinking that just doesn't seem possible to me. Like, I write a lot of code, and I don't know how many commits I did, maybe 2,000 or something. And I don't see how I could do 10 times as many. Like, it just seems totally implausible. And I think that's like the downside. But again, even if that kind of gaming of it makes you write more code overall, I think that's the benefit. And I think that's why it's silly to say the Goodhart's law applies to self-directed goals. I just don't think it does. Because I think so much about goals is just staying engaged with whatever your desired outcome is. And I think if that keeps you engaged, even if in the specifics you're gaming the metric a bit, it's probably better overall.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, fundamentally, like a lot of like I guess a lot of self-improvement in general, whether that's improving in terms of the number of lines of code you write or in terms of sticking to a meditation habit, it's all about consistency. So at like a fundamental level, if you want to improve at something, you need to do it regularly, and the heat map does track that. And
right, exactly.
I'm a total hypocrite as well, because like obviously at my job I've had to implement a heat map, so I can't really talk. I literally wrote all the code implementing a heat map.
But do you yourself not feel any motivational impact on some kind of streak tracking like that?
I guess, yeah. I mean, like, I definitely feel some kind of impact, but I'm not sure whether it's positive or negative. Like, I think, for example, for Twitter, like I've been trying to post more on Twitter. I actually wrote a blog post specifically about this
I
today.
read it.
Oh, you
I
did?
enjoyed reading
cool.
it.
Yeah, because it was, I realized that over the past, I don't know, is it 2 years? Since we were really active, kind of making podcasts and stuff.
I think it's at least been 2 years, maybe longer.
Damn. Yeah, I realized like over that 2 years, when I compared the kind of growth and I guess opportunities, like serendipitous connections, the friendships made and everything, it just doesn't compare to the 2 years where I was actively posting online and things like that, and interacting people on the Discord and everything.
Yeah.
So I completely forgot where I was going with this, but
No, that's all right.
uh,
We were talking about the motivational impact
oh,
heat maps, stuff like that.
oh
Does that
yeah,
bring
yeah,
it
yeah. Oh,
back?
oh, yeah, yeah. It does, it does.
Okay.
Um, so like for example, you can look at your metrics, for example, on Twitter, and those can be motivational to see people interacting with your posts and everything, and that can help you be consistent. If you see people sending you messages or yeah, just replying to whatever you've done, sending you emails, that can be like a good motivator. But at the same time, it's like, do you want to be relying on that kind of uh, that kind of metric to drive your behavior? Because I don't know. I actually ended up installing this Chrome extension specifically to hide all the metrics from Twitter because I found it just has like this negative impact on your mental health. It almost I feel like it drives me more and more to just be scrolling on there constantly, like always opening tabs. Like if there's a if my program is compiling slowly, the first um, you know thing I do is jump over to Twitter and take a quick scroll and check my notifications, see if anyone's replied to anything. Um, I feel like a lot of
So,
metrics just have that kind of tendency to mess with your mental health a little bit.
so it's your own metrics specifically that you're looking at, or just in general you don't like seeing it?
Well, I turn them off for everyone. I mean, I think it's worse for your own stuff because I feel like that's the content that you're more emotionally attached to. Um,
Mm,
but I think it still has an effect for other people's. Like you might judge someone else's tweet in a different way if you knew that it had a certain number of likes. Like you might be persuaded by the crowd,
right. And that to
persuaded of
me,
their
by the way, if I could
sentiment.
just comment on that, I hate
Yeah.
that. I completely hate that. Because, and that's why, if you look at my Twitter bio, and by the way, I have no followers on Twitter. I'm not popular on Twitter, so don't follow my advice. But if you look at my bio, it says, trust the tale, not the teller. Because what I saw was a lot of pathetic engagement with what are
Mm,
completely obvious points because of who had said it. If
mm.
somebody with very few followers had tweeted that, and I said, do you think this is a good tweet? You'd go, no. But because someone you respect tweeted it, you go, oh, it's so wise. How about you try thinking for yourself? Like, how about you actually evaluate what you're sorry, I know I'm getting phosphorylated about this, but it's like, to me, it's like, dude, either it's a good tweet or it's not. It doesn't matter who said it. The only reason it's relevant who said it is if it gets at their particular expertise. If it's something about startups and it's tweeted by Paul Graham, of course I'm going to believe that. I'm going to put more credibility in that than I would if some random guy tweeted it that I've never heard of. But if something's good advice, or if it's a good way of framing something, it's just good. If a painting is good, it's good. It doesn't matter whether it's painted by Leonardo or Joe, just some guy down the street. Like,
Mm.
it's good. And to me, that's what bothers me about so much of social media. It's like one person can post something, and because they have followers already, it's like groupthink. Everybody just believes, oh, this person has followers, therefore they deserve the followers. Therefore, their tweets are high quality. Therefore, I like all their tweets. It's like, that's insanity to me. But it's totally understandable not to exclude myself entirely and be all self-righteous. I've absolutely been guilty of that, of course.
On the painting example, uh, like imagine if you saw a painting and it was pretty good, and you're like, oh, that's okay. But then someone told you that someone with no arms painted it just with their feet. You'd probably be a lot more impressed. So I feel like the context of who did something does matter in some circumstances. Um,
Right. Okay, fine. So let's frame that in general. Let's try to articulate that general principle. When is it relevant who somebody is with regards to what they've done?
mm. I'm gonna add like I don't have any hands to my Twitter bio. People are gonna be wildly impressed.
Like, oh, I wrote all this code. I don't even have any hands. I did this with my eyes.
Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm not sure. I think I don't have a good answer. But I think, yeah, it definitely does make a difference because, like, for example, um, let's say, yeah, like a notorious, a notorious racist, says something really positive about um, an ethnic group that they have spoken out against previously. If you just saw that tweet and you didn't see the person who tweeted it, you'd think, oh, that's like a normal thing to say. They're just saying this race is good or whatever. But if you knew then that it was tweeted by someone who was previously a this is such a weird example, but that's the only thing I can think about.
Well, in a certain way, I feel that what might be relevant is whether it's about the person or about the thing they did. Because in that case, that tweet, you could take it in isolation. You say, is this positive comment a good tweet or a bad tweet? You could say it's a good tweet. And then, but really what that tweet is about, it's about that person. It's about their relationship to the world. And so it is specific to them. So in some way, it's sort of in a class of one, and you can't evaluate it against other tweets that would just be from neutral people that are not having a history like that. In a certain way, I think a good painting painted by somebody with their feet, it's sort of about them. It's not about the painting, really. The fact that it's good is about the person, not the thing they did.
Yeah.
Like, that's why you have to kind of, I don't know, you in a certain way, aren't you adjusting your expectations? You're downranking it. If you didn't, because like you say, if you didn't know about their particular circumstance, it's either good or it's not. And I kind of think, isn't that a corrosive aspect of the modern culture? It's like we are judging things based on who done it rather than what it is by itself. It's like either it's good or it isn't good. To me, that should be the way it is. Like, yes, of course, some people have less opportunity, and that's not fair. Like that really should be something that we address and something that we try to equalize and give people equal opportunity to access whatever they need to develop themselves and move forward in the world. But that doesn't mean that because you're disadvantaged in some particular way that everything you do should be graded on a curve relative. I mean, I just think that's dangerous, Not to get political. We're a space repetition podcast, in case you didn't know. But this is
with the
politics
premium
free.
space repetition podcast.
Yes, and by the way, when you see other people making space repetition podcasts, make sure you let them know that we did it first. We are the premier space repetition podcast. But no, I mean, it's okay. I want to get back to the Twitter thing. So you mentioned your mental health and all that.
Oh wait, can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
This whole conversation, I was wondering like why it reminded me of something. And it's because was in one of those articles, like he wrote about it was in the Lunchtropy article. I think this is what it comes down to. Like he wrote in the Lunchtropy article, it was like if you hear that some person had a baby, you're not that surprised or something like that. But then you hear that person was a man or something like that. And it's like suddenly your Lunchtropy will be off the charts because you're like, oh, how could that possibly happen? So it's like,
right.
It's not necessarily even it's not like the painting, and it's not necessarily the person. It's the entire situation and how interesting it is to you given your prior knowledge, I guess, to analyze it as was May.
Right. Yeah, I do think so. I guess I just don't want to be misunderstood as having said that it's never relevant who said a thing. Of course it's relevant. I'm just saying there are plenty of times when something is either good advice or a funny thing to say or whatever, or it's not. It should not matter who said it. But sometimes I feel like people give so much credibility to a person that whatever they say, it's like how people laugh at jokes from their boss. It's like
all like these, the halo effect.
Exactly, all these rich white guys going around to be with the times. I'll call them all rich, middle-aged, straight white men.
And, oh my god, you sound like my sister.
And you know,
So freaking woke.
they're all going around thinking I'm the funniest guy in the world because everybody laughs at everything I say. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're laughing because you said it, because you're their
Mm.
boss. So in relationship to you, they feel like they should laugh, or maybe they even feel like you're funnier than you are because they want to be endeared to you. You know, so it's like,
Yeah.
in a certain way, I feel like it's that, and I just feel like it damages people's ability to think critically or think for themselves and actually evaluate whether something is good, you know. And I feel that same thing, like I said, happens with paintings, probably happens with expensive wines, anything where you can just say this is from here or this costs this much. Isn't it so great? You go, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like, if you say so, I'll take your word for it, you know. And
Mm.
I think that happens a lot. But yeah, I don't mean to say that it's never relevant. And I think I remember that. Didn't you mention a story about Napoleon? He had like some short snippet of a story about Napoleon. And I think he said that if you found this story interesting, because he didn't say who it was, he just had like a brief description of a person's life, and he didn't say who it was. And
Mm.
I remember thinking, oh, that's interesting. And then he said, this is Napoleon. If you found it interesting before knowing that, you're probably, whatever, an information addict or something. And I remember
There you
thinking that
go.
I did find it interesting.
Oh yes,
I
I
hope
love
I'm
his little
remembering that
stories.
right. I really hope I'm remembering that right. But anyway, yeah, the Twitter metrics thing, there was something I wanted to say about that. Do you think that you get like truly positive moments, or like you're just sad when nobody engages? What is the feeling you get?
Um.
The reason I think it's important is because everybody on Twitter starts out with no followers. So when you tweet, you get no
Yeah.
engagement. And that is,
Yeah.
it's like an unpleasant feeling. And it's especially unpleasant because you go, like, if somebody were looking at this, it's, well, to me, I guess, it's just this weird feeling like, I know if I stuck at this, I could get followers, but it feels weird to just do nothing for a long time and not have anybody even see it. They're not even deciding it was bad. They're just not seeing it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely like I think in the blog I had a section called "Posting into the Void," or
Yeah.
I should have called it "Posting into the Abyss." That's really what it feels like. Yeah, it is definitely a brutal experience to begin with.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's no, I guess it's like you don't know if there's no feedback because what you're writing is shit, or if
Right.
it's because just no one's seeing it. That's the difficulty. There's no like red notification on your message. Like if you're texting a girl and it says red, then you know for sure. Okay, after a couple of weeks, okay, fuck.
Yeah, now I
But
gotta move on.
yeah. But if there's just nothing there, then you don't know. Maybe they lost the phone or something. They dropped the phone in the ocean.
Yeah, maybe they lost their phone.
And you can start making up all these stories and deluding yourself into thinking,
Yeah, exactly.
you know,
She
yeah,
dropped her phone to the bottom of the river.
yeah.
Yeah,
um,
but that is such a it is a big problem. But at the same time, the point you made about the democratization of attention, it is true in a certain way where if you make something good, like Mr. Beast, for example, has mentioned this, like if your video is not getting views on YouTube, it's probably because it doesn't deserve to get views. You know, like the algorithm will surface it. If it's good content, somebody will see it and then they'll stay engaged with it. The algorithm will pump it more based on that engagement. And that's that circle. And eventually you'll get a bunch of views. If your video is worthy of getting views, it will get views, you know? And like you said, I think Twitter is the same way. But in a certain way, it's like I know that I could get more engagement. I've even tested this. Like there are certain types of things you can tweet and it just gets more engagement. And it's like, if you say, here's 4 things I learned from such and such, that will get more engagement. Like I guarantee it. We could even test it. It's just, that's how
yeah,
it works. If you're a smart person and you can articulate some learning you got from something or whatever, and you tweet it like a list or whatever, everybody will engage with it. But if you just tweet, like I just sometimes I just tweet total nonsense that makes me laugh. Like the idea of it. Like I saw this scientific paper about how they had built this bed where they could rock old people while they were sleeping, and
Okay.
it drastically increased the depth of their sleep, and it like doubled their sleep spindles and all this, and that made me laugh so much. Just the idea of you're
Yeah.
whatever. I'm not gonna be able to get.
This sounds great. Like I want one of these for my
Yeah,
for my home.
exactly,
gonna...
dude. But anyway, I tweeted that, and nobody engaged with that. But it's funny to me, you know.
This is great. Dude, did we... I feel like I talked with you about this before, but like that feeling of posting something that you feel is going to get pumped by the algorithm because it's just genius.
Exactly.
And then it doesn't.
Exactly, yes.
And then what the urge to just be like, what is wrong with you people? Like
Exactly right. Like, don't you see how funny this is, dude? This is unbelievable to me that nobody's acknowledging how funny this is. And
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
oh, it's such a bad feeling, dude. But at least it's just with a tweet where it only took you like a minute to think of it. But imagine
Yeah.
if you did that with like a movie and it goes to the theaters and nobody watches it. You think like,
Yeah.
oh, like it's like been like 200 people working on this movie. It's going to be amazing. We've spent millions and millions of dollars and now nobody watches it. That must be totally devastating. I mean, if we feel bad about that, think of how devastating it must be in that circumstance.
I feel like it's not as bad with a movie in some senses because like the the disappointment is shared between a lot of different people, and you can kind of say you can either kind of rightfully say this was a shared project, we can all take responsibility for a part of this, or you
Right.
can delude yourself into saying yeah, it wasn't my fault, that everything went badly. With Twitter it's different because you're sharing like a personal idea, like you're the one who's tweeting it, so it's like what if it doesn't get the response that you want, then you can't offload the responsibility for it onto someone else, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah. And that's such a common thing. I always wonder that, like somebody who lost, they're like if you watch a sports game and it's very close and something bad goes wrong and they lose the game or whatever. I always think, what story are they walking around with? What are they thinking in their head about how it wasn't their fault? Some people think it was their fault, and that's what makes you a winner, I think. Part of what makes you a winner. Because then you improve. If you think something wasn't your fault, of course you're not going to improve because you don't think you did anything wrong, And I think that point you made about you can always find some other variable, I think that's really important. And like you say, the more people who worked on something, the more excuses or potential excuses you have.
Yeah.
But I have also heard... Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna slip in. There's just this fascinating video I watched recently, and it was from one of these self-improvement YouTubers, and it was hilarious to me. It was titled "The Average Man is a 3 out of 10." And it was like, I was like, well, how can the average man be a 3 out of 10? It doesn't work because the average should be in the middle. It should be 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
But he makes this like hilarious, like very convincing argument that the average man, in his words, the average man is a bum. The average man is just extremely sloppy,
Right.
I think his basic point was like the average man in the 50s or whatever was at a certain level, and due to modern lifestyles and like diets and just laziness, social media usage and gaming addiction and so on, the average man nowadays has slipped. And he says we shouldn't just be lowering the bar back down to a certain level. We need to maintain the standards and just accept that the average man is now 3 out of 10. And I just thought it was such a hilarious
That is
argument.
funny, dude.
And so relevant to this, because it's like, if you ask the average man, what how attractive does he think he is? How like it's the same with the Dunning-Kruger. Like how smart do you think you are in a particular domain or something like that? People will always overestimate where they really are, where they really stand. And I think it can be the same with Twitter. And then the thing is with Twitter, like, if your ideas really are shit, you're going to find out, because literally no one's going to reply to you or message back, and it's going to be a very brutally honest kind of feedback session, essentially. Yeah.
But I don't know. Don't you feel this kind of rebellion to not post what the audience wants, like what the Twitter users want? It's like you say, we know what kinds of tweets will get more engagement, or at least I have some sense. Like, I'm sure in fact, I know I should do more experiments to figure out, like, exactly, and maybe just accept, like, this is how you grow on Twitter. Tweet like this, and just embrace that. Maybe that's the way to do it. But I feel some kind of rebellion where it's like, I know this is what you want, so I'm not going to do it. Like, to me, it's like, I feel kind of, I don't want to do that. I want to do what I thought was funny, even if it doesn't make sense if you don't know me. Because that's the thing. Once you have a lot of followers and your followers have been following you for a while, they get your sense of humor and all this. Then they will laugh and engage when you tweet something that you think is funny. That's not like typically good tweets. Like, okay, if I could just say this, Elon's tweets, so many of them are complete garbage. So many of them are complete garbage tweets. And why are they getting engagement? Because it's Elon that tweeted them, right? Just like I was saying. And it's not that they shouldn't get that. It's kind of funny that he, as the CEO of so many big things, is tweeting those like stupid memes. Like, that is funny. And so you build up this context with your audience where they get your jokes and stuff. So in that sense, it does begin to matter who tweeted what for those types of things. And that's what bothers me. It's like, if you knew me and you were following me for a while, you would like this tweet. This is a good tweet in that way. But it's not a good tweet in the sense of, like, building an audience of people that have never even heard of you before,
Yeah. I guess it just depends on what you really want. Like, the goal isn't necessarily just to grow for the sake of growth, because you can really get, like, good opportunities and things out of Twitter with, like, very few followers, or, like, relatively few. So, like, let's say like 400 to 800 followers, right? You're gonna have, like, people interacting with your posts at that level and, like, messaging you and things like that, and you're not going to be able to, like, get that monetization, Twitter monetization, cash flow coming in or anything like that. You probably aren't going to be able to market a product to that kind of audience or something like that. But you're going to have friends. You're going to be able to make friends, and that's, like, I guess, something
that's
that
what
was
life is
quite
about,
motivating
baby.
to me. Yeah,
Friendship.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And, like, on the point
I was
of
making a joke, but it came off sincere.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. Maybe I'm too agreeable. I should have just been like, no, fuck you. That's some chicken soup for the soul. Shut up.
Yeah, exactly. What a garbage statement. Oh, life is about friendship. Who cares?
There's, like, some Instagram quote on, like, a picture of a sunset with that plastic.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, go ahead.
But yeah. You mentioned something about wanting to rebel against the status quo. Reminded me of, like, Marco Pierre White, that chef.
Yeah.
Who watched that long. I guess it was
Oxford,
technically an interview. Yeah, it was the Oxford Union.
Yeah.
And it was technically an interview, but he just speaks for the entire time, and the interviewer never asked a single question.
Yeah, it's literally, tell us about yourself, and then he goes on for 45 minutes. Literally, that's what happens.
Yeah, it's just a monologue of him, and it's incredible. He's a great storyteller.
Yeah,
and in part of it, he's talking about his Michelin stars, because he was one of the first chefs to earn 3 Michelin stars or something, which is, like, the big kind of.
That's the most you can get.
Yeah. That's, like, the main metric of the chef culinary world.
Right. It's like reaching 100,000 flashcards in your collection.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's like, because he gave them back to the organization that gives them out. He said,
really?
I no longer want them. Yeah. and his reasoning was like, I'm pushing myself so hard. I'm creating like all this great food, and the people who are reviewing it, they know less than me. So
Mm,
why am I listening to their opinion? And I feel like
right.
you're the same with Twitter. It's like I'm crafting these genius tweets for an
Right.
audience of fools. Why am I
Right.
bestowing my great intellect upon them?
Well, if I'm totally being real with you, that is how I feel. That but it's yeah, it partially really is that. And it's like, but at some level, it's like, man, if people don't have the context of your personality, you can't blame them for not laughing at some totally insane tweet that doesn't make any sense, like, so
Yeah,
on some level it's my fault, just me being an idiot.
I feel like it'd be better if Twitter supported some kind of like audio input so that you could say your tweets. So I feel like that would it would give it more context in terms of like the tone and like make it more
Right.
obvious,
Yeah, more obvious that I'm joking or whatever, like most of the
Yeah.
things I say are jokes, like in life, and I don't know, I just feel like it's so much about context. That Tyler Cowen quote, I don't know if you hear him say this, but he's always saying context is that which is scarce. And I think that's
Mm.
true. And I think it's true with LLMs. I think it's true on Twitter. I think it's true with the news. I think it's true so often. Context is that which is scarce. Like you're always missing on context. And
Yeah.
just to like change the topic sort of, I do think that this year will be so much of the improvement in LLMs will be about maintaining your context. So you won't constantly have to tell the LLM, write this way or do it like this. It'll just know who you are. It'll be like a continuous conversation almost. I think that's
Yeah.
the next big improvement. This maintenance of context.
To be honest, I don't feel like there's, that many times where I feel like I want it to know about all of my other conversations with it, though. If you know what I mean? Because we talked
Right,
about
but
this
I think,
before.
don't you think that's a limit? Sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I think this is
No,
important.
no, go ahead.
Don't you think that's a limit of the current technology? I think once it is standard for it to just know what you're referring to, like, hey, I just got this email, what should I reply? And they'll know, like, oh, I have all your past emails with this person, and I have all your
Mm.
emails actually, and I have everything you've ever written, and I know what you're working on right now and what your schedule looks like. So, bang, here's the reply, you know?
Mm. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, it would just have to be, yeah, I guess, yeah, you're right. It is just a limitation of the technology. I'd just be worried that it would be super janky until all of the kind of bugs were ironed out, because it would
Right,
have
and
to
it will
really
be.
understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would just become very frustrating because um, it's kind of, I guess, a very simple example of the way that this can become annoying is with the change to not allow you to change between like the different data analysis and like image generation modes.
Right.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, I found that kind of annoying because, uh, now sometimes instead of it defaulting to the data analysis mode, I have to specifically tell it to do that. And
Mm,
it's just annoying. I'd rather just have a quick little drop down that I can press to activate that mode or turn it off if I don't want it.
right.
And it's the same. Like I want to be able to, like, the default action for me is just to have a new conversation where the old context has disappeared because I know it's no longer relevant to what we're talking about. But
Mm.
probably, as you say, there are a lot of tasks where you do actually need to have all of that context there. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just a matter of
Yeah.
improving the technology.
Yeah. I think if we can get to a level where it's like, I think we've mentioned or talked about this before, maybe privately. If it's like Jarvis from Iron Man,
Mm.
like that will be great. I don't know if you've seen that, but his personal assistant, it's a robot, and it just knows everything about him, and he sort of speaks to it like a friend almost, and it's just continuous conversation. It's always just it knows exactly what he's doing at that moment. It's almost like it sees him physically, and he just says, "Oh, what's the deal with this?" or "Help me do that," or whatever, and it automatically does it. I think that's sort of pretty obviously going to be a component of the future with these things. But right now, it's like some people, like yesterday. Okay, this is a personal anecdote. If the person who did this ever hears this, this is not an insult to you. It just makes me laugh so much. I got an email, a business email yesterday, and it was actually
Okay.
me and my brother were both on the same email for a reason that I won't get into. It'll take too long to explain. But it was from a friend of ours that we've known, like, for my brother specifically, they've been best friends since they were kids. So just to give you some context about why this is insane thing to do, just so hilarious. Like, the email he sent was so professionalized and so, like, given this swift action, this, that, and the other. And it's like, dude. And I texted my brother. I said, "Did you get that AI email?" And he goes, "Yeah." It's like, it's
Yeah.
so ridiculous, dude. Why couldn't you just write your own email? Like, we are friends. We've been friends for a long time. We talk all the time. Like, what is going on with that? And it's because you say to an AI, "Write me an email about this," and it doesn't know your full context, And it's
Yeah.
like some people just don't realize. Which in that case, he should have realized it. Just to be clear, he should have gone like, "This is not worthy of sending." Just say a few words
Yeah.
yourself. Like, this is ridiculous to talk this way. And I've seen that happen more and more, where people clearly write something with AI and try to pass it off as if it wasn't written with AI, because AI
Yeah.
sucks at writing for the most part. But
Yeah, it's
anyway,
very obvious.
yeah, it's like, dude, this is ridiculous. And in the future, that won't happen, I don't think, because it'll just write like you write by default.
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe what will happen is like society will come to look down upon like almost like if you use AI and you get caught out, it's like a massive sign of disrespect that you weren't willing to take the time to write out something yourself in a way.
Yeah. AI apology letters. Have you seen those? Like, apparently Kanye West apologized with AI or something. Like, dude, this is so pathetic.
That's really
man.
funny. Yeah, there'll be this weird situation where it's like you can, yeah, if you want to troll people a little bit, you can write an apology letter, but write it with AI, and then people will know that the real intent behind the apology is it's just like a facade. But it's
Yeah, exactly. I'm
yeah,
not actually sorry, and I really don't care at all what you think, because you're
exactly.
beneath me. You know?
Yeah. So there's
That's
that
like
really
something I would
interesting.
tweet.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that should be your kind of niche, using AI to write really trash tweets
Yeah,
or something like that.
demeaning AI content.
Yeah, demeaning AI. That'd be great. I bet that would do really well.
Yeah, that's my niche. No one else even knows of this niche, and I'm monopolizing it. But yeah, it is a big. It's something I wonder about, because everybody is adapting so quickly to the fact that images you can see are fake. The fact that a person could be writing something that wasn't written by them, writing code that wasn't written by them, all these things. Everybody's adapting so quickly to these expectations. I remember when I was a kid, for some reason, I was obsessed with this notion. Like, I would be using the computer when I was like 8 years old, and I would look at a dialogue box, and it would have whatever. "Are you sure you want to cancel this?" And I would always think to myself, I don't know why I would think this, but I thought a human being wrote that. I would always think that. I wonder if we just had an earthquake. I felt some vibration.
Oh, damn.
But I would always think that, like, oh, a human being wrote those words. A human being wrote all the words that I'm seeing on the screen. And now it's not true. And by the way, I know that's an insane thing to think of. I don't know why I thought of it. but
Another
now
day,
it's not true.
another window into Xander's childhood that gives us all the context we need to understand some of the things he says now.
Yeah, exactly. There are many anecdotes from my childhood about words that would give you a clearer picture of why I am the way I am, and it's not nice.
God.
No, that came off as if I was being serious, but there are seriously like all sorts of weird ways I would interpret language. Like, I was a literalist. I remember thinking, like, I would hear so many phrases. Like, if somebody said, if you want to do that, be my guest. And I would think, what is it? What do they mean by that? Be my guest. Because I thought, be my guest, that means you do it together. I remember being confused by that, but people would mean that when they said, don't, go do it by yourself. I don't want to be involved with it, sort of. But anyway, I don't want to get into all that. But now when you look at stuff on screens, it wasn't all written by a human being. Plenty of it could be written by an AI, and that's like a strange thing. My core point was, people are now expecting things to be fake. They're so incredulous when it comes to like images, anything that's weird. Like there's been hoaxes all the time. Like, oh, this voice was not really that person. And that's going to happen more and more and more. And I think it's just going to make people more skeptical. And it's going to be about sourcing things. It's going to be like, where did you get this audio clip? Like, can you say where you got it from? And if you can't demonstrate that you got it from the real place, then we're not going to take it as true, because you can just fake people's voices,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I really never understood the whole concern about all of this fake generated stuff. I feel like it's only a concern if like only one person has access to this technology, like a nation state, like maybe the intelligence arm of a government, like the CIA or something. If they have access to this technology and no one else has access to it, then it's very dangerous, because you can create a fake and no one will suspect it as fake. But if everyone has access to this technology, then everyone's constantly aware of it, and it's always in the back of their mind. Is what I'm looking at real or fake? I can't tell, because I know that the technology is out there and anyone can use it. And so that's a big reason why I think all of this AI stuff, it has to be open source. You can't just have one company who's like monopolizing the entire thing. It has to be an open source thing. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think it's just another example of people, because the viewpoint about AI is like, oh, it's different than any other revolution in the past. It's really gonna collapse jobs and all these things, and that might end up being right. But so far, what we've seen is that human beings, have adapted to AI, the presence of AI, remarkably quickly. We went from there's no such thing as useful AI really, to, I mean, it was in very specific use cases, to it's everywhere and it's normal. And in fact, all the fake stuff that's generated, all the bad stuff that's generated, people's minds just filter it out by default. It doesn't bring me any problem in my life to scroll through Twitter and see fake images. People are saying, oh, did you see yesterday? I don't know if you saw this tweet. People are posting this photo of some woman on Reddit, I guess, verifying herself. And it was just and they were saying, we're not ready for this. This photo is completely fake. And I thought to myself, so what? Like, what's the problem with that? People are going to be on Reddit saying I'm this person, and they're not. Like, dude, are you serious? They'll just find another way to verify, or what? Who cares? It doesn't really matter that much. Like, so far, it has not been a problem that you can generate someone's voice to sound almost exactly like them. Like, it has not been a problem that you can generate music that sounds so close to the actual artist that if you didn't know, you'd probably just believe it. Like, that has not been a problem yet. Maybe it will be eventually. But so far, people have adapted remarkably well, in my view.
Yeah, the hilarious thing is that I didn't see those posts in detail. I did see the picture. But like those posts that I assume were prophesying sort of doom, or this is going to really be a problem for society. In the process of doing that, they were resolving the issue by generating the hysteria to sort of spread the message wider. That's going to result in people, being skeptical of any image that looks like that. So they basically just solved the problem.
Exactly right. And it's like, to me, it's the same thing as saying, oh, I just got this text message from somebody. And it's like, okay, fine. Am I just to take your word for that? Like, what if you faked it, And it's the same thing. It's like, now we'll just have to extend that to images. That's it. I really think that's all it'll be. People just default to false with images. Like, is that really something that happened or not? And people just default to no, unless they can verify the source of it, unless they know, like, oh, this person really was there and we all saw it on the live video feed or whatever, stuff like that.
Exactly. exactly. Yeah, yeah, I completely agree about the adaptability of humans. Obviously, there's the was quote, "The brain is a perfectly adaptable device." One of my favorites, gets used a lot.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, I was looking at the posts about the robots that use like imitation learning, and they can cook really well. I don't know if you saw those.
Oh, was it? Did it have some Hawaiian name or something?
Oh yeah, Aloha or something like
Oh yeah,
maybe.
yes. I saw that yesterday. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it was super impressive. It was like exactly
awesome.
the kind of thing that I would want to use, and it was so general as well. It was able to do like laundry,
Yeah, I could do all
cleaning.
kinds of cleanup. Yeah,
Yeah, it was super cool. And but I was thinking like how if I had that in my house, I would adapt within a day and become annoyed at it and start you know,
exactly,
yeah. Like
exactly.
I don't feel like a lot of these innovations you know, none of them are mind blowing beyond like a week. You literally get used to them in days. And then you start finding the flaws and getting annoyed and being like, how could this be better? Um,
Exactly. And that's the human way, dude. Like, think of
yeah.
how insane it is to have a bot, a machine, where you could say anything and it says something pretty useful back to you. Like, that's
Mm.
so amazing. In the whole history of human beings, we've never had anything even close. The only way to have a human like communication was to talk with another human being. And now, at any time of day, about any question in the whole world, you could type into this black box and it'll give you back something that's useful. And now people are going, "Oh, the machine is too lazy now. It won't write all my code. I don't like it
Yeah.
anymore." And it's like that's so insane. It's so insane how quickly we adapt to that.
Yeah,
Do you
man.
think it's lazy? Do you think it's lazy now?
I don't know. I saw all kinds of like crazy theories. Like
In the
one
month of
thing that
December it's lazy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that. That
You know
sounds
what I
weird to
think?
me.
Here's my arrogant comment on that.
Go on.
Those people are infected with a mind virus. You're all believing exactly what someone else told you. You have not independently evaluated that. No
Yeah.
way. And by the way, I might be totally wrong. I don't know.
We should just put that. We should just put that comment at the beginning of the podcast. Just allow that to apply to everything we say.
Yes, exactly right. Just assume
Yeah,
that we said that afterwards.
yeah, yeah. No, you're right. I thought that was a ridiculous like explanation. The one that made sense to me was like just OpenAI putting in limits on the number of tokens that would be generated because it would, clog up their servers if people are asking GPT to just generate like enormous lists of quite useless output, or you
Right,
know
yeah.
generate a bunch of code where it's like kind of obvious and you don't need to spell it out in that much detail. Um,
Yeah, which is I do wonder actually how much money they make from the average ChatGPT user. I think it's kind of like an Amazon Prime business model where some users they don't make any money at all because they use it
yeah,
too heavily, and
yeah,
other users they make a bunch because they rarely use it. But
yeah,
when you use the API, it's like you're paying per token that you input and output. So they would have no incentive whatsoever to make that any worse in terms of the number of tokens it returns. But it only does return 4,096 for a reason I don't know. Probably a limitation on the amount of compute they have.
yeah. uh I heard that they're basically just GPU constrained, like they literally physically can't buy enough
Right,
video
exactly.
cards.
Exactly. Which is why they had to turn off the signups. Imagine having such a good product that you actually have so many people that want it that you can't service them all no matter what you do. Even if you have access to billions of dollars, you cannot get enough
Yeah,
compute to service all the people that want your product. That's insanity to me.
yeah. You start to just run into resource limitations on Earth.
Right. Like, think of how good your product must be in order for that to be true. The whole world is pulling it out of you at such a rate that you go, please don't give us your money anymore. We can't take it. We can't
Yeah,
we can't allow this to happen. That's so amazing to me. But yeah, in general, I think I think people adapt to things so quickly, and it's like you say, it's just now that we're used to it. What's wrong with it? How could it be better? Why does it suck so bad? You know, all these. And it's crazy. I saw people saying, "I'm canceling my ChatGPT. I'm going back to Stack Overflow." Like I literally saw people saying that on Twitter, and I thought, "What world are you living in? Like, what you're having a totally different interaction than I'm having. Like, the idea that it's gotten so substantially worse that now you'll just go back to Stack Overflow. Like, I just don't get that.
No, it must be just like engagement bait. People cannot be that stupid.
I don't
Surely.
know. I don't know, dude. To me, I could not believe that would be someone's experience. That it would be so substantially worse. Because you can chat with it about anything. It's not just a coding machine. Like, even if you thought, oh, it doesn't code as well as it used to, can't you use it for other stuff too? Like, I don't know. I just found that kind of a stupid thing to say.
Yeah, for sure. You know,
that's the through line of this whole conversation on my side. Me just calling people stupid, I guess. Just, oh, that person's stupid.
But you know who's not stupid?
Me.
The audience, my friend. And you.
Yes, our audience, by the way, are all geniuses. They're even smarter than us.
Exactly.
Yeah. We respect the audience immensely, and we'll do whatever you ask of us.
Oh, I was thinking. I don't know how like deeply you've gone into the David Deutsch stuff, the like critical rationalism. All of that
no, not at all.
Oh, not at all. I guess maybe this doesn't make that good of a topic.
Give me a primer or primer, as you people say.
I've never said primer. Is that something people say?
I thought the Brits say that. Some people do say primer.
Really?
I don't know who does it then.
Oh, damn. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. But yeah, like I feel like a couple of parts of this whole AI thing are interesting to analyze through that kind of lens, the lens of David Deutsch's whole philosophy of like knowledge and stuff. Like his big thing is that knowledge is just like it's all guesswork. It's all as he terms it, conjecture. And so he's what's termed as he's like a fallibilist. He doesn't believe that there's like any way you can verify that something is true. You can only show that something is false, essentially. So I don't know, maybe you've heard of like Karl Popper and the whole like demarcation between science and non-science. He said something like, basically, if a scientific claim differs from a non-scientific one in that it can be falsified. And so I was thinking about that in relation to like all of this, image generation stuff, all these fake images. It's like, it means that for anything you see, you have to be really skeptical of it, and you can't just take anything for granted. It makes it clear that your entire perception, all of your ideas, they are just guesses at truth. Nothing can be like pure truth. Even something that you see that you're like convinced is real could just be like an AI generated simulation of it, especially as things get so convincing that they are lifelike. So I don't know, it's just I guess it doesn't make that much sense if you haven't read that stuff, but
I mean, it sounds very interesting. I'll have to look into it. I mean, I know David Deutsch is widely regarded as a brilliant person. I just have not read his writings. That's a fault of my own.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, but I do think that will be the default position. It'll be like how. Well, what's another good example of like the way that everybody has adapted to technology? I remember reading that if you question like tribal people that are not living in the modern world, if you ask them something about like conceptual ideas, their brain is not constituted that way, so they can't they can't answer you, even if it makes complete sense. I forget. There's some example about a polar bear. It would be like, it was something about how all polar bears are white. So, what color is, if you saw a polar bear, what color would you see? Or it was something to that effect. I'm not getting it right, so don't take that as what it was. But it was something
Okay.
close to that. And these tribal people, they weren't able to answer that because they only think that they know what something is if they see it right in front of them. And so I'm just wondering about how, what's something universal where everybody in modern culture has adapted to it, and it's just totally normal, this like default assumption that's different than what you'd naturally do as a result of technology. Because I think it'll be the same thing with AI, but I'm just looking if we can have a specific example.
It's a good question. Um, hmm.
Like, okay, here's something.
Okay.
Prior to over 100 years ago, let's say 100 years ago, thereabouts, the only way you could ever hear music or a conversation is if you were in the room when it was happening. You had to be in the
Yeah.
room with somebody playing music. You had to be in the room with somebody speaking. And then now, because everybody grows up from being a baby to hearing recordings of people, watching things on TV, watching movies, whatever, listening to music, your default is not to assume I'm hearing it, therefore someone else is in the room. Like, that to me must be deeply evolutionary. That's why, like, when you watch a scary movie, you get scared because
Yeah.
your brain is not fully accepting the fact that this is not really occurring. Or you cry at a story that was totally fictionalized because you're so caught up with it as if it were like a real thing happening to people. And that's because of the way our brains are wired. We're not used to that fake, whatever, conveyance of information as if it's real. And we do have those feelings of connection to those things. But then as soon as the movie's over, we move on with our lives. Like, it doesn't have any real effect of like persisting in your life. Oh, that person died in the movie, so I'll be sad. It's like, they didn't die. You just accept that they didn't die, then you move on from that. And in a certain way, you could say, oh, that's just a story. But it's different than a story that, like, a person would tell verbally or orally, let's say. It's like something you're actually seeing occur, but it didn't actually happen. And we all are totally comfortable saying, I saw that and it didn't actually happen, and so therefore it's fine.
Yeah. No, that's a fantastic example. Yeah, you're completely right. Yeah, especially with the audio thing. I guess just because I listen to so many podcasts and stuff, it's like, yeah, I guess in our ancestral environment, whenever you hear a voice, it has to be from someone in your immediate vicinity. But now it can just be, a recording of someone, and it's like, yeah, oh, it's so cool, like how the brain can just effortlessly adapt to that kind of thing, and it makes me wonder how adaptable it's going to be to like more invasive kind of hardware level augmentations and things. Like I assume that's what's coming. Surely that's going to be coming in the future. I mean, we already augment ourselves in so many ways with smartphones and computers and things like that. I think it's going to become more and more like embedded into the actual body, and more sort of invasively integrated into our brains. I don't know how exactly it's going to look like. If it's going to be a Neuralink or something else. Probably the next step is just like proper augmented reality glasses, right? But
Right, yeah.
I can only assume it's going to just accelerate from there, and I think there's going to be a lot of pressure, especially if AGI is created, and that's going to create a lot of competition, I think, for us to kind of catch up, depending on its abilities and capabilities and things like that. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think in a certain sense, once AGI is truly achieved and it can recursively improve itself, there'll be nothing we could ever do to catch up just because it can infinitely multiply. It's like I don't see how it's ever possible. But I am very interested in And by the way, if you think I'm wrong about that, I'd be interested to talk about it because I think that's a really interesting thing. But I am very interested in the idea that we can increase human intelligence through some like wetware augmentation somehow. Like I'm more interested in that honestly than having AI do everything. Just because I think it'd be so awesome. Well, I don't know. Maybe it'd be totally different. But it seems to me like if humans could get radically smarter, like 10 times as smart as we are right now, by some augmentation, that would be really awesome.
I don't see any reason why we couldn't do that. You know, like I feel like it's just a matter of understanding all of the component parts of the body down to a sufficient level, and then you should be able to just integrate into it. And maybe there's obviously there's a huge amount of complexity there, but I feel like how wild is it that we know about the quite deep details about the structure of stars or something like that
Right.
are millions of miles away, but we can't understand our own bodies to a really deep level of detail, even though they're right there in front of us, and we can do whatever manipulations we need to do to zoom in, and we can create all of the equipment we need to examine things and do tests and everything like that. But in some ways it feels like we know the the physics of stars better than we know the biology of our own bodies in a way.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And I think people think that medicine is advanced because it's so much better than it used to be. But if you really think about how much they actually know for sure and how specifically with the interventions they have, there's a reason why drugs have so many side effects. It's because we're not that good at it. Like, it's very amazing what they've done. I'm not trying to dismiss it. I'm also not a biologist or a doctor, but I'm just speaking from a layman's knowledge of the subject, just from what a person could observe. I think you're totally right about that. It's almost an embarrassment how much we've advanced in other stuff and how much medicine has advanced relative to that, especially with stuff like cancer. Like, we've made strides in terms of survival rates, but nothing like you'd want or nothing like you'd hope, given the advancement in tech, let's say, over a similar time period. So that's totally true. And I think that with AI, one thing that I'm very excited for is when it gets good enough that it really is just spitting out new insights about science all the time. Like, hey, how about you try this for cancer? Did you know this? Like, won't that be so awesome, dude? Won't that be the best thing ever? Aren't you just so amped about that? When I think about that idea, I'm honestly filled with excitement because of how many people will be helped by that. Like, how many people's lives will change because this machine understands something that we didn't understand.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm completely and utterly optimistic with regards to the future of medicine and basically everything. I think it's the best time ever.
Me too. And let's
alive.
close out on this. I have this question for you.
Okay.
Suppose you knew somebody and they were young, let's say about our age. They were healthy and they were smart. And they said, I tried a cigarette yesterday and I really loved it. I love smoking. I love smoking cigarettes. I'm going to become a smoker. And you say, oh, aren't you worried that it's going to damage your health? Isn't it really bad for you to get cancer? And they'll say, no, by the time I'll get cancer, AI will have solved it. So they say that to you. How do you change your view of them, if at all, based on that?
I think, I think David Deutsch has a good part on this because he would describe himself as an optimist, but I think he would say that the person who's assuming that AI is going to solve cancer or whatever, solve their medical issue before they actually get it so that they wouldn't be harmed, is being blindly optimistic because they're prophesying, a future creation of knowledge that you couldn't possibly predict in advance. Like you never know. Like David has this very good lecture on well, he's talked about it in multiple places, but he has this whole spiel on how you can never predict like when a particular
Right. You can know
piece
that
of
it will
knowledge.
happen, but not when.
Well, not even that it will happen. It's like you can be optimistic and say that I think that things are going to get better and there's nothing standing in our way to creating more knowledge. But I can never say that I know that we are going to create this piece of knowledge, because if you were able to say that and predict it with any accuracy, you would have to actually have the knowledge in the first place to be able to say specifically when it was going to get created. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. And so you would think of this person that they're making a bad choice.
Yes, exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
well, this person's me. I'm hopelessly addicted to cigarettes.
What? What?
No, I'm joking.
I was like, oh my god, what's happened over these years since I haven't been speaking to Xander?
Oh, I'm totally joking, but I just thought of that and it just made me laugh last night. Like, oh, if someone did that, because it is such a funny thing to say. Like, oh, I'm just waiting for AI to solve this problem. It's no big deal, you know. Like, oh man, just the idea of it made me laugh.
I was
But anyway.
Immediately my mind went to like, how could this guy have got started on cigarettes? I was thinking maybe you're one of those guys who starts using nicotine patches to be more productive, or to like get addicted to something productive, like running or something. I've heard of people putting on nicotine patches before they run to try and get themselves addicted to it. I thought maybe that's what you were trying.
By the way, I just want to comment for the record. I doubt that nicotine in and of itself is that addictive if you don't smoke it. I think that's actually an interesting point, because if you read Guerin's article on that, and by the way, we should wrap it up after this because we've been going for so long.
Yeah, sure.
If you read Guerin's article on that, it doesn't seem to me like nicotine has that much risk, and it is kind of beneficial for certain things as long as you're not like prone to addiction. So I just wonder whether like nicotine by itself is actually addictive.
Well, let's find out, and next time we can report our results.
Sounds good. Let's do it, buddy. All right.
All right.
There we go. Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening. We love you, audience.
Love you very much.